Alright, so this is my project web desk that I have made. So at first, I brainstormed a bunch of ideas. I had an idea of a meal planner, a budgeting website, coupon food selection, and my personal dashboard maker, which is the one I decided to go with. So the meal planner website was just so that way you could plan out meals each day and think about how you want to eat and meet all your dietary restrictions for that day. The budgeting website was because there's a lot of different websites and apps that you could use that just give you some budgeting stuff, but nothing ever actually filled up perfectly what I wanted. So I just wanted to split it up based on any amount of day, week, or like even up to the hour, just for each individual items that we could split up the prices, which not a lot of budgeting apps or websites allowed me to do. For the coupon selection for food ordering, this was an idea I had for a while, but ultimately wouldn't work out. But it's where you could just have all the coupons that you have on your phone and what you want to order, and it'll spit out the best economical uh, order that you could do based on what you want. The main problem with this one was the fact that you'd have to put in so many coupons at once, and they're constantly shifting around. And then the dashboard maker, which is the ones that I decided to do, is because there's a lot of different tabs that people have open and use, and I wanted a website that simplifies everything and gives you a basically desktop for creating different selections and being able to basically replace a bookmark and not have so many tabs open at once. So, like I said, my meal planner website was just a simple version working, and to expand it from there, the budgeting was just for basic math and having clear calendar and different days you could set up and you could track and you could put in your budget, like I said, per day or per whatever denomination you'd want. The coupon selection, again, I told you about that just before. Then the dashboard maker was the biggest thing. I wasn't sure on how I was going to approach at first, but I knew that I wanted it basically like a normal desktop. Oh my goodness, just with icons and other things in the background that you could click on, highlight over, all that stuff. But in the end, I chose the dashboard maker, and I am glad I made it, and I'm really happy with it because it is something that I actually really wanted and looked around for before and never could find. And I'm often one that has a lot of tabs open. I just had to close a bunch just to start this up because I haven't even fully utilized the page yet. But I wanted it to be fun and interactive, and ultimately it was a good challenge, but I understood a lot of the elements on what I could and couldn't do. So, to identify why this one is the most valuable is I know it would take a lot of design time, but I knew I could make the layout for customization. I knew how to do each individual element such as buttons. I knew how local storage worked, and I knew that it would provide a colorful way of providing all the tabs and all the icons, so that way I could just have a website I visit, close out of it, and then open the next website instead of just trying to switch around tabs and click around that. My solution has changed a little bit in the design because I have the look of the website before. I'll show you just in a second. But the overall design, I have buttons on the left, the top bar, and then you could full screen it so you would have all the different icons spread out and just be that one full screen page when you create it. So here you can see what my original idea was. So it'd have a home, about, and the actual dashboard. Then have all the, just the about page would just be a simple explanation of the page and the purpose. The about page would basically be an instruction page, and both of these would have a header and a footer. But when you go to the dashboard page, which I didn't, it would have the buttons on the left. You could change the background, add icons, delete things, load and save your last layout, and it could clear the board, and it could full screen, which would grow to just having the full screen here with the button to go back from full screen. And then you'd add an icon, there'd be a pop-up that comes up, and then you could either use a shape or an image and create your icon that way with text underneath and a link that it would link to. So this was my original idea. And you can see here, this is how I thought it would look, and this is the end product. I have the top bar and the sidebar being a limited size that doesn't grow or shrink with the page growth. The only thing is this bottom button moves, but there's even additional buttons up here that I'll talk about later when I go over the project. But there's also the adding icon section. So that's how I thought it'd look, and this is ultimately the end product I went with. So it'd have the shape you select, the label, and then the link. So my idea didn't really change in overall principle, it just changed in the final look that I went with. So I've had 5 main milestones when I started. Getting the overall layout and the complete pages like header and footer, getting the button layouts of the sidebar, getting everything functional with a prototype, getting the buttons to work in final order, and filling out the page of the info for the instruction. So the 2 weeks I wanted a proof of concept, in 5 weeks I wanted just everything to work, and then by the end having everything stylized. So very simple plan there. And research was just making sure everything was viable as I did the first 2 weeks proof of concept. From there, everything was pretty well laid out. It just was very technical. You know what? This was some of my mood board inspiration. So I would really like colors, and I like big layouts, big buttons, and very nice colors that really contrast. I have all the different websites and where I got these images, but this is the project brief. Had slight changes from it, but again, the overall layout and final goal of it was all the same and was all stuck to. Everyone still will interact with the website the same way. I just added some features and changed around the looks of everything and the sidebar buttons. The timeline I did not follow too well, but that was mainly just from jumping around and trying to get everything fully working as I planned out to have it working. I now have everything completed, and although the timeline wasn't completely followed, it was a good guideline on how I wanted things to get done. The plan for the timeline generally helped get everything through my work and helped me keep on task. Even if I went to go work on something else, I knew what I was ultimately heading towards and what goals I wanted after I completed some of the side work that needed to be completed. I might even add some more customization in the future, but as of right now, the website is in a fully workable and designed state. There was even some issues where, as I adjusted things, some things broke, and I still have been testing and changing around the website even now, because there's always been something that I test. Like the first time you visit the web page, the background button wasn't the right color, which should be white because the background was white. So I had to just go in and adjust that and re-upload the website yet again. So there's been a bunch of obstacles I ran into. Many were small, but one of the biggest troubles was just trying to drag the icons, and this went on for a while. Just whenever I clicked and dragged an icon, it would jut up to the left, and I couldn't figure it out for a while when I was first working on it, until later on when I ran into the same issue later and realized it was more of a core issue and something that I should really look into fixing. Ultimately, it was because what I clicked and dragged and what I used to update the position were two different things that were all part of the same element, but just called to different parts of the element. So moving the pixels counted for the wrong element and adjusted the overall icon. Other expected small issues came up. Some things were easier than others. Like some issues I thought I'd struggle with a lot ended up being simple, but like the background color was a lot easier. There is just a simple color picker that websites use, and it's based on your browser. There was two main issues I ran into. One was cosmetics of the website. The sidebar took a lot longer to get everything working as I wanted it to, and the animations I wanted and the icons that I had as buttons on the sidebar took a lot more adjusting than I was expecting. I only have one image on the left, the others are basically drawn elements, and the drawn elements, I had to relearn that because those are still stuff that I was unfamiliar with. But in the end, it ended up looking good, it worked well, but just took a lot more time and effort than I thought. Second was now clarity for users when you use buttons and modes, because there's either an edit mode where you can move icons around and adjust them, or an active mode where if you click on an icon, it opens up the icon. So my solution for just telling what the current mode was a lot of, like, the button change color, the full screen button change color, and when you're enter full screen, it gives you a banner with the current mode that you're in. So you're well aware that you could either edit. Also now when you hover over an icon, it tells you what you could do with that icon. Alright, so for project layout sketches, there's this is again how I thought it would look. Having a header, a footer, both of those have navigation on them, a summary page that gives you just the quick overview of what the page is, the purpose, and my image as the author, and an about page that would basically be a tutorial page. So the biggest part of this website is creating your own icons, as you can see here, just writing words, having images or shapes, and you could make it full screen so it just covers your entire browser, and then you could use it as a layout for visiting different websites. You could drag around icons, then when you're ready you switch to active mode and you could use it. I had just one storyboard because I was pretty set on the idea. I tend to just adjust things as I work rather than adjusting the design ideas. But everything came together in a very similar manner as I planned, as you can see here. So yeah, the plan followed the chosen thing, just some buttons and other things were changed for style. The top bar, as you saw, is pretty much the same. And the wireframe gives a great starting point. I know how it looks and how, like, all the elements would be placed and where they would be. Based on feedback, I didn't make any changes to layout. I've made some additional features, but there hasn't been a lot of problems where there hasn't been a lot of problems where there's been a major issue that I had to change. Just more people complained about elements I was already planning on adding, saying what they liked about it, which were usually the main aspects of it, or the feature modes and editing icons, which I decided to add on later. Later, I did get the feedback of the buttons were plain, which was an element I was planning on fixing. The edit or active mode was a complaint I just addressed before, and then being able to re-edit icons is something I wasn't planning on adding. It seemed complicated, but as I worked on it and as I thought about it, I thought of a way that it could work relatively simply. And initially I didn't like it because I was thinking about the fact that if someone clicks on it, it'll bring up the page and it'll be annoying to try to constantly have that open and then exit out of it. And then also having it not be intuitive. For right now, it's just icons being there that you can move around, and then in active mode you could click on them. It's a very simple and straightforward that might be muddied by having extra features that you could interact with icons and do. And how can I ensure that it won't break any storage or file storage that it has, and make sure it updates properly? That was all concerns I had, but ultimately it was surprisingly easy with implementing it. But the harder part was actually adding a tooltip, which when you hover over something, there's a little bar that appears next to your mouse telling you what you can do with the icon. So now it has edit / drag when you're in active mode, and open when you're in add / drag when you're in edit mode, and open when you're in active mode. So it tells you what you can do with the icons, and these tips can be turned off because I like being able to turn off features that you don't like or don't need. So there's been a lot of different. Hold on, I need some water. So there's a lot of different features. And I had a full plan laid out here. So I have a header with a complete design, the homepage info, the dashboard, background color. We'll be going over these in the next few slides, but in the end I ended the finish line and I kept adding features and got everything I wanted to work. The first goal was header completed with the design. This was easy. It got complicated with just making sure there was the right layout as the page adjusted, and making sure that the header worked like tabs like I wanted it to. Getting the homepage info was just a simple layout. The design would come later. Third goal was getting dashboard with buttons lined up. This again was simple HTML and little CSS, just putting all the buttons on the page. I just wanted all the interactables to be there as I built out the functions. The first function was the background color, changing the button in preview. This one took a while, but through trial and error, I landed on one design that changed later, but background that changed the color of the dashboard was completed. Fifth goal, header completed with design, ease settings of other buttons, icon, adding icon, and text and link for each icon. So when I clicked add icon, it just added an icon and added it to a list. This was a very simple way to get all the other buttons working and to make sure functionality was right, because you could
I was going to add the ability to edit later, but as long as the overall function of adding an icon and saving it to storage worked, then the rest would follow that it could work too. Along with saving the icon, it had to save the position of where it would be. Sixth goal was a simple mode change in trash. So it would switch from edit to active and have some things change, have a variable change, but this was a simple thing, and the trash can changed later. The clear board button removes all icons. This cleared things out. It kept it in storage though. This was not a hard thing. Save and load working. This one just had to convert all the locations and icons to JSON and then reload them in the position. Ninth goal was to keep the dashboard stable without scroll bar and resizing. This one took a lot of adjustments until later on. Just recently, I realized I can just set the body to everything that overflows hidden and set it to the right size. So now that was done a lot simpler, but back then I had a lot of adjusting that I did. Full screen button working. That was just hiding all the other the sidebar and the top bar and keeping the full screen button there. The biggest thing was I came up with a formula for adjusting the icons that takes the top leftmost element and moves it to the left, and all other elements move very slightly accordingly and space out evenly once it's adjusted. The bottom right stays in the bottom right, and the top left in the dashboard section moves to the top left of the screen, and everything adjusted as according. Changing the layout for buttons and clearly displaying the current mode. This was simple CSS and JavaScript. Changed the button as I went on. I decided to change a little bit of how the current mode was displayed, and it was displayed on top of the button with the colors. 12th was delete mode working. This gave the cursor an X, so that, and whenever you hovered over an icon, it would glow red. It's only available in edit mode, and just click on something and deletes it. This didn't take too much effort. The next goal was having the full add icon work up with a pop-up. This wasn't too hard. The shape selection. I had to add a full list and style a bunch of shapes, and then have those be classes, and have those classes update into the local storage, so when it loads it adds those classes in. Or it would be an image upload, which is converted to data. And being able to add images was the next goal, and I tried different sizes. Ultimately settled on a 128 by 128 because the bigger the image is, the more local storage, and there is a limited amount of it. Although it's large, having a bunch of images does take it up quick, and 128 pixels was the end decision. I wanted to be able to export and import layouts. This was a decision I added later, so that's why it's called an extra goal, but I decided it was necessary because if you use a different computer or even a different browser, any layouts that you do, any icons you create, would be completely unusable, especially if you cleared out all your cookies. You would lose your ability to actually reload your layout. So now I have it where you could have a file that has all the information, that has the local storage on it, and you'd be able to import it into any user or browser. You could do what you want with the save file. Adjusting the icon sizes, I decided to make them all larger. I like a bit of a larger set. I don't think they'll be as crowded as an actual dashboard, so I decided to make them big. Sideboard button styles. Like I said, this took a while. I added some animation effects. and just made them all unique and clear based on their look, not even with the words, what they do. I created the About page. This one took a while, but it was screenshots that I added numbers onto and then made a numbered list for creating all the diagram and explanation of buttons and their features. I finished styling the home page and About pages with sections that are kind of like blocky and almost look like they're popping out. And then some additions were completed afterwards, like the tooltip, editable icons, and grid movement for icons, which I'll show later. I'm not used to talking a lot. So, did I run into any obstacles as I progressed through? And how did I overcome them? The biggest obstacle was just fixing that the icons shifted slightly as it went over ish. Earlier, the other issue was the icons can go off screen when you shrink the page. And I had to adjust my formula a bit and what it referenced for the lowest and biggest. But once I figured that out, it went well. Some obstacles I ran into was also the as I made it bigger, there was just more errors that came from fixing and adding features, which is to be expected as the project gets larger. I had to take some time to make sure my page was actually optimized and not just a bunch of features all over the place, especially the JavaScript. I kept the CSS pretty stable in the HTML, but the JavaScript started to get messy as I just added features towards the end of the file. A lot of just Control F to find, as I made small errors, what elements and any related elements to what I was adding or adjusting in order to find the errors and fix them. My process was extremely successful. I refined all the button looks and added a lot of features. I don't think I would have done anything different. I liked completing some things first, and change around what I worked on helped me keep motivated as I worked through this. Showing it off really helped to get some ideas of what needed to be worked on. Sometimes when showing it off, I found more errors because I interacted with the website in a different way. And it gave me, as I used the website, I found ideas and ways that it really needed some changes. Part of my reason for not having a background was, like, even though some people want a background image, just the... Hold on a second. I want to make sure to keep things simple. If you have a background image, it conflicts with any kind of icon text, and I'd have to have some text background, and that would just be needing a whole different website setup. So I tested it with some people. I presented it to students from my class and had a few responses. A lot of them praised it, and all basically issues were the ideas I already wanted to work on and fix. Adding more clarity and adding button styles. So this was mainly stuff I already planned, but it was good to get some feedback. And then when I created my second prototype, still the buttons weren't customized, but I did have similar feedback because I showed it to my professor and to my brother, and they said it was functionally fun, but the buttons are plain, which again I was going to work on. And then an active mode was not clear, and this was something that it was presented in the project, but wasn't going to be too different in the final version, so I decided I needed to really make it clear when modes were switching. And to re-edit icons, which is something I wasn't planning on adding, but as I discussed earlier, I decided on adding them because they felt missing. I was able to show the completed version to some people, and although I didn't get much feedback because they were less technical, my target audience sensed a broad range. Ultimately, just showing it off and using it a different way did show me some errors, some ways I need to improve the website. So I made changes to the button layout. I was thinking about the image in the background, but that would get too complicated, and I could think of a lot of other functions to add, but at some point it would just be bloatware rather than actual improvements. Assuming most users have a relatively large screen, I made some adjustments so that way it'd work on a little bit smaller, but it's not meant for that. At least the reading of the about page, and you could see how the website looks on a small page. Target audience, biggest one is myself, because I've often have a lot of tabs open, and I came up with this because I wanted a website like this. I added features as I felt it necessary, and editing the icons is an extremely welcome addition. I was thinking about dark modes before, but for now I'm not going to have that because you could choose your own color. The sidebar is white with buttons there, but it's not like gonna break a dark mode or anything, and adding that has not been a complaint or felt necessary from me. I may continue adjustments, but for now it is a fully functional and really well designed site in my opinion. For the most part it remained consistent though. The first round of feedback was focused on improvements I was already considering, and the second one just had some ideas I was planning on. I considered and decided to add a feature of implementation. So, final product. This is a direct way to organize your commonly used websites and not have a bunch of clutter. These websites provide an easy way for users to create icons, open tabs to any websites to set up. And you could be creative and organize the page. You can see here, edit mode, you have your button laid out here, and then active mode, you have it like this, so it gets rid of buttons you can't use. Here you could see, just generally, my page, it'll be everything small, and when you full screen, everything moves up. You can see some images here, some shapes, some colors, text different colors, shapes different colors, different shapes of all different types. And this is what it would look like for when you're using it. You can see a long word, a long sentence. It breaks it up nicely. Your layout anywhere, so this is the exporting and importing. So you could take what is sometimes a large text and save it as any kind of text file and use it anywhere, export and import it anywhere. So I have a 71 page file, which is this one. I did remove some icons from that, but generally, yeah, images will make the thing relatively large as it's saving all the pixels of the images as text. This project turned out really well. I nailed down a lot of errors, not just functional, but the errors of design. Anything felt off were adjusted, so it feels professional to me at least. And I added features I didn't think originally I would use, and I kind of pushed myself to do it, even with the time limit a little short. So there was many times I just came to my family and was like, oh, I completed the website, but I did that like 7 times at this point because of either errors I found or additions I made, and now I feel like it's finally at that complete state with nothing I'd really want. It's even with the hover tooltips and stuff, it's really nice, appealing to both like high end and low end users. I feel now. The summary page went well. That one just has a nice simple look. The main page is fully functional. The about page is actually a really nice design and layout for a diagram type of explanation of everything. Everything's interactable. Everything's fully works in the way I intended from the beginning. The only thing that didn't go too well is it took a while, and it was a lot more code than I was planning on adding originally. But I could think of a lot of things that would be nice to add: background image, icons, borders for the icons, borders for the text, icon backgrounds, text backgrounds, and then you could create different size icons. But any additions, and you'd have to spend more time in here creating an icon, thinking about it. And if you have a background image, you could already see some text conflicts with the background. You'd have to consider a lot more on how the background looks, which is why I'd want a text background. If you have text background, it creates more things. And this is mainly used as a page for visiting other pages and having a dashboard that you could use to visit other pages. And when you have that amount of customization, it starts to lose its purpose. If I was to add all that, it would be on a separate website. Like maybe I could add images just for this, but it would also take up more storage, and at that point you might have to start considering how many icons you could put on with images because of the storage. Right now it could store safely like over 100 icons, but I need a large image saved in storage, which would cause issues there. So it would, if I was to add all this, it would have to be basically an advanced dashboard page. What did I learn about myself as a designer? I learned I really like to make improvements over time. Even things I think look good at first, as I look at it, I decide it needs to be improved. I change the look of things and the layout, but I like to try to avoid creating unnecessary noise. I learned I really like to add features, even against my better judgment and time with the work. I commonly just am thinking of ways to improve. I'll lay at night or wake up early in the morning and run to my computer to add something that I thought about and realized how I can do it and in what ways. As a project manager, I was generally organized. At one point I did need to take time to make sure to reorganize my JavaScript. I've been less organized in the past, so I surprised myself here. If I ever take a break from something, like even this webpage to work on other schoolwork, I kind of get like cold feet when it comes to coming back to a project. Even though while I'm working on it, I'll spend like day and night and way too much time in it. Whenever I leave a project, I'm scared of coming back and breaking things or taking time to understand it and just struggling with that. Anyway, so that's the full project brief. Although it might not have been too brief. Now I could actually show off the website itself. So, this is what the page looks like when you first add it. You could add an icon. So you have different shapes and you could see it changes what's on there when it does that. And then you could choose the color. And then you'll see the color update as you change it. Even in this thing, you could add a custom color. So now I could have a custom one. So I'll have something like this. Display label under icon. Let's just do it simple at Google. And then you could add a link to google.com. But it automatically adds the beginning HTTPS and the link. And just to show you, I'm just going to say go. You could change the text color. So I'm going to make this one actually the same as the other one because I saved the color. And now when I create the icon, you could see here, and I could already drag it. You see over here, the tooltip comes up, edit and drag. I could click on delete, I hover over it, it says click to delete. I could switch to active mode, which changes out the layout. I could click this, and it'll open up the Google page I set up. I could change the background to be any kind of color I want. I personally really like blue. I think I went with blue because of like old website designs and stuff. And you can see here, I can't drag it around when not in the thing, but when I'm in edit mode, it stays within the page. And I can add another icon. Let me just make this. This one will be an image upload, and I will do something like this. So you can see an image here, label. Oh man. I'm just gonna call it ASU, and I could go to ASU.com, or let me name it school, or then change it to like a reddish under it because we've color for the words underneath. And you can see it converts to 128 by 128. So I can create icon. Now I have a school page. If I put this down the bottom, you see if I full screen, the top one moves up, and then all the other things, icons will move accordingly. So in full screen's edit mode, and if I'm in active mode, when I full screen, it'll say active mode. Other buttons is save, and now if I clear the board, change the background color, when I hit load, it'll load back everything previously. See, it still has edit and drag. In active mode, it has open when I hover over it. And then if I turn on tips, turn off tips, it does not have any kind of tooltip there. The other thing you could do is grid snap. So I'll actually show this with a local storage. So if I open up this, it will be a large page because of the amount of icons I saved on it. I'm not sure actually which this one. Yeah, no, this is the larger one. But so let's just see this. I'm going to create a new file, and this is how you could save something like this. Let me just call this local storage 3, because that's what I have. And if I go to this and I export exactly as I have here, I can copy it, do a copy to your clipboard, and then go in here and paste it. See, only a little bit here. So when I take this now, if I take this and open up to WebDesk, import, now I control paste this, commit, it says it was successful, and now I have a completely different layout. You can see here, this is like my personal dashboard that I set up. And just to show you, you can see things are a little off right now, but if I turn on grid snap, now everything moves in a grid-like pattern, making it a lot easier to organize any kind of icons in the way that you'd want to have. And now I can turn that on and off. I could even have that in the page, but when I full screen, it's in set edit mode. So if I turn it back to active mode and then full screen it, now all the pages I can open to ASU, that page, GitHub, YouTube, LinkedIn, my Canvas, my Google Drive, ChatGPT, Loom. So all the things I would use right here, so I could open something up, look at whatever I need to, do whatever I need to, close it, it'll have this part right open back again. And now, whenever I load, it'll load back to the previous time I saved it. So now I wanted to show you, even though I used that one, because I exported this and saved it, if I import here and then paste it, commit import, you can see the tips are now off because they were on before, and it has the icons exactly as I saved them, and all the background and everything. So you can see when I click on it, it has animation. Delete has a change when you have delete in a red glow. And I can just load things back. If you have on delete and switch modes, it turns off delete. Save is a save icon. Load spins. Clear board. You can see clears off. But again, you could just load it back. As long as you don't save a cleared off board, you're good. So for the summary page, you can see the layout here. Just welcome. This is a page to help people have less clutter. Purpose, as a student, you have a lot going on, or in work, or for entertainment. This provides links to other websites, simple way, and then just my author, just having my image there. So if I click on the About page, you can see here you have also buttons and boxes to explain things. Explain the button, what it does, in case you need this, grid snaps, clear board, save, load, and then it'll also show you the icon pop-up with the labels and the image with the labels. Button layout, explaining the icons, the import, export, then full screen. You can see it has a different button, different color depending on what mode you're on, the tips, and then the import and export. And then on the bottom, again, it has a footer, but on this page it doesn't have a footer. You can see it has slightly different look for a thing, but the sidebar and the top bar will always be the same size, so you need at least, I'd say, about that size. And the other thing is, you can notice one of the icons you don't see here, but if I full screen or other things, it'll appear up because it gets pushed automatically onto the page. So if it's ever off the page and you change from full screen to that, or from this, it'll push it right to the edge. The other thing is, summary is easy to read, and the About page, if it's too small, it will, like you can see here, it'll scroll down, but now it's laid out like this, so you could still read it on small page. Again, it's really meant for big page, but I wanted some things to be readable and usable in a small page. And anytime you reload it, if I clear it, if I change the background, if you don't save it and you reload it, it'll load from the previous time you saved. So nothing automatically updates, which I really like. You'd have to hit the save button. And that's my project.